we've got a Men of Hope, and this men dealing with addiction and everything else. And so they're actually going to be the ones that come and do our service on June the 20th. And we'll probably do something similar to what we've done tonight. July 18th through the 20th, we have a men's fishing trip to Mammoth Springs, Arkansas. August 10th, we got a skeet shoot. October 3rd, we got a sportsman's stew dinner and wild game dinner. And then we have a cornhole tournament November the 7th. So if you're interested in that, we've got some flyers up here. You can take one, take it with you, and just put it on your calendar. So, when I was trying to find somebody to speak, and I thought about Jacob, there ain't a whole lot of people that are comfortable speaking. And a lot of times when you happen to ask somebody, you're kind of apprehensive. You don't want to come too forward, but you kind of ease them into it, And so with Jacob, I'm trying to ease him into it. And, if you get them to a certain point, you can usually say if they're kind of wishy-washy, you can kind of go, well, just pray on it and get back with it. And, have you ever seen anybody go, well, hey, I prayed on it and God told me no? I didn't even get to that point with Jacob because I was easing to the point of asking him, and before I could even ask him a question, Jacob said, I'd love to come speak, which made my job real easy. But I've seen Jacob, I guess I started seeing Jacob in high school playing ball for McNairy County, playing against my boys. And my boys went off to college and up at Martin, and Jacob was there too. No telling what all he could tell you about, but he probably don't need to tell those stories tonight. But they would grill out and do all kinds of stuff, and they built a bond, and actually both my boys and my oldest son passed away, but they share a special bond with Jacob, and he's friends with my daughter too, so he's kind of like part of the family. And I think the world of Jacob, always have, and I'm just honored that he's here to speak with us. And just, Jacob, come lay down what's on your heart. You can't hide from God.
And no matter what Mr. John says, I'm not real comfortable doing this, but it's something I've learned and I was taught to never be scared to share your story. Let everybody know what God's done for you, because you never know who could be on the edge, needing just that little bit of hope to save their life. Yeah, I guess I'm going to give y'all a little bit of where I'm from. Grew up in McNairy County. Great home. Yeah, my parents were divorced I think I was about 7 years old, but my dad, being one of the most godly men I've ever had the privilege of knowing in my life, was always a great example. Lived 2 hours away from him my majority of my life, but was always there for me. The best example of a man I could ever dream of having. My mama taking us to church, because that's who I was living with, spent most of my time with, took us to church every time the doors were open. We were involved with everything. I was raised the way you needed to be raised. And sometimes what is it they say? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's kind of how it was for me, I guess. I guess I had to get out there and spread my wings on my own. And it all kind of started about the time I graduated high school. Great childhood, raised right. I still going to church some in college, and I guess those little bit of compromises right there started becoming a big part of my life. I was raised to go to God with my problems, and I found a bottle. I started drinking. You know, at first it was just kind of like a little thing to, I don't know, let loose and fit in and be cool, I guess. Then I started realizing the escape after a little while that I could have through that. Instead of going to God with my problems, I started going to that bottle, trying to drown myself and expect to live. I think my problems with loss started my senior year of high school. My great-grandmother passed away. Everybody goes through that, so that's nothing new to anyone, but she was like a good friend to me more than just a grandmother, and it was right there at the end of my senior year, so, I'm finishing up baseball. My grandmother passed away. Two big things in my life have suddenly disappeared, and that's when, that summer, I started chasing those feelings away and feeling that void with outside sources. Off and on through college, I battled with God, and still I knew He's where I needed to be. Church is where I needed to be. But boy, wrestling with Him, that's something. You can't ever get away from Him. And I started trying to shut off my mind, because, as with a lot of people, I'm my own worst enemy, even to this day. But kept running back to alcohol. Then as soon as I would start drinking, I'd hate myself for drinking, so then I had to drink more to quit thinking about that part. But this went on off and on till about 2015, July 10th, I believe it was. I try to forget about this day the best I can, but I'd finally gotten a four-wheeler, gonna go riding with all my buddies there in Corinth, Mississippi. Went out to eat, and we went and had a few beers, and this young fella, I was 24, he was 19, and of course he couldn't buy alcohol at the time. Here I was being such a great example. He brought his credit card to me and went and bought his alcohol for him. We went and rode that night and had a big time, man. Just cutting up, hooting and hollering, just riding trails and doing what young guys love to do. And we all decided to start heading back towards the truck that night, and I knew Jay was drunk, and I never once tried to stop him. I thought, man, we're all right. He's ridden out here his whole life. This is my first time, so I had to ride with somebody that knew where they were going, what they was doing. So I got on the four-wheeler with him. We was headed back, and he got a little wild, ran off the road and hit a tree, and it threw me and the girl out into the road. I had road rash on my forehead and my nose and my chin and all that good stuff. Didn't have a shirt on, so gravel road at about 60 miles an hour. Didn't really feel too good. And I remember laying there hearing him, the noises he was making. Sorry, I'm getting graphic on you, but I'm kind of trying to paint the picture. I remember going to some wrecks with my stepdad and hearing stuff like that, and I knew it wasn't good. I laid there in the road. I tried to get up, and the worst pains I've ever felt in my life. Come up my right side, and I couldn't get up. I was laying face down on the gravel road for about 45, 50 minutes waiting on an ambulance. And they got us loaded up, headed out, and they lost Jay 4 times in the ambulance. When we were trying to get out of there, they loaded us both up in there at the same time because it was going to take too long to get another ambulance out there. And I remember praying to God right there, you know, please save Jay, because I knew it wasn't good. The more they tried to do chest compressions, the more they realized that there wasn't much they could do either. And come to find out, once we got to the hospital, that Jay did lose his life because of that wreck. And that's where it really got started for me. Blaming myself, letting the devil kind of fill my mind with the doubt and shame. I knew better down in my heart, but I let him fool me to believing I was worthless and that I'm the reason that happened. Boy, it sent me down a long, dark road. But that was just the start of it, really. Was going through that, having a tough time. Like I say, that was the summer of 2015. The spring of 2016, about March 1st, I found out my mama had cancer. A lot of people had to deal with that, you know. We're gonna beat it. She's tough. You know, God's got us. We're gonna do this. And we start going back and forth to the doctors and figure out what the game plan, what we're gonna do there. And I remember we make it to that summer. While she's in, you know, going back and forth to the doctor, I started between the wreck from the summer before and what Mama was going through right there. The best thing I could find to do was drink it away. And the more I drank, the happier I was. I know it wasn't because I was having fun, it was because I could forget. Didn't have to think. When you're blacked out drunk, you don't think. But I think it was July 12th, 2016. I got the news that my buddy Trey had passed away. That was another time that, man, he's the same age as I am. I ain't got nothing to show for my life. He's going out here in Nebraska, you know, trying to do big things with his life. Why couldn't it have been me? I battled with that, back and forth, you know, with my mama being sick and trying to be tough for her. I started shutting down, you know, isolating, trying to fight through it on my own, pushing God to the side, you know, because I had my doubts, like, God, why would you put me through this? Why would you take a friend like that from me and from everybody else and not take me? I don't have nothing to show for my life. That's the devil working on you there, creating that doubt, making you believe that you are worthless and don't amount to anything. Later on that fall, I found out that a good buddy of mine from Bolivar, Tennessee, right up the road, he had cancer. And seeing him go through the processes of all the treatments, and while his girlfriend was pregnant with their first and only child, really started wearing on me there too. Again, questioning God, like, why can't this be me? I don't have anything. I mean, I got a job, got a old beater vehicle, like I'm still living with my mama. Like, why can't this be me? You know, take me from here. Keep these good people on the earth for you. Well, December 27th of 2016, my mama went back to the hospital. She never really left after that. And I started drinking, going to see her in the hospital just to keep her happy, to keep from worrying about me, and then going to sitting at a bar in Beale Street in Memphis by myself. isolating myself because I knew I didn't want my friends knowing just what kind of place I was in. Watching my mama die. And finally, we found out it was about the middle of June 2017. They came to us and let us know that there wasn't nothing they could do. And cancer had taken over her body, and they was just going to make her as comfortable as they could until God called her home. Boy, that was one of the toughest times of my life, just standing there thinking, what am I going to do? Again, didn't go to God like I knew, like I'd been raised to do, like I knew to do. I wanted to be in control. You know, that's what a man wants to do, is be in control of everything. Back to drinking. August 2nd, my mama took her last breath. I was standing there holding her hand when she took her last breath. A lot of people ask me what these tattoos are for. We got "It Is Well" on my arm. It was her favorite song, and that's what we're listening to when she took her last breath. It kind of means something to me. But I remember being just so lost, wondering, where do I go from here? All my friends got everything going for them. Everybody's getting married by this point, having kids, and the devil using comparison in this situation to tear me down even more after, I lost my best friend, my mama. I never turned away from drinking. I knew deep down that that's not what I needed to be doing. I had that conviction on my heart the whole time. And honestly, I think that's what made my problem even worse, was fighting that conviction so hard. Man, the more I drank, the worse it got. It's like, come on now, you know better than this, Well, finally drink enough, you don't hear that anymore. You don't hear anything. Can't even hear your own heartbeat if you wanted to. But 2017 really got started. I went off to work in Alabama. Boy, I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to act. Lost my best friend, my mom. I was broke, lived out of my change bucket for the first couple of weeks trying to get some insurance paid and that kind of thing. And I was too tough to ask for help. I guess my dad helped me out a little. He let me drive a vehicle of his because mine's broke down. I didn't have the money to fix it. But I got to a point there that I couldn't even make it to work on time. And I'm a union Boilermaker, and it's absolutely something I love to do. Weld and beat and bang on all kinds of stuff. And I got to where I hated that. And little did I know at the time that was only the beginning. From 2017, that fall, it really got started rough. And until about 2019, I was just back and forth. I went to church probably twice, maybe, which I can tell you that's 100% of my problem, because you get what you put in, or get out what you put in. When you fill yourself with trash, you get trash out. It's simple as that. And that's what I was doing. And in November of 2019, boy, I had finally reached a breaking point. I'd lost a couple other friends to just random things in life, heart attacks and some drug overdoses and stuff. Man, again, why couldn't it have been me? These people got kids, wives. I ain't got nothing. I barely have any money. Making good money and don't have any, because I was drinking it all away and just kept pushing God away. It's kind of funny looking back now how easy it could have been to, looking at it now, it could have been easy to have stopped it all if I'd have just been able to surrender just a little bit. But one night, November of 2019, I'd had enough. Luckily, I didn't have a gun or anything with me. I know this scares a lot of people, but I was ready for it to be over. I didn't want to hang myself. It wouldn't have been fast enough. I was ready to go. I was ready to make it happen right then. I got a phone call. You know, they talk about these like divine intervention. Strongly believe that that's it. A friend of mine, Russ Henderson, called me that night, and some of y'all may know him. Never answers the phone. He's sure not going to call anybody unless it's about duck hunting or golf. And he called me and just wanted to talk. That's something he never does. He didn't realize it, and I didn't have the guts to tell him at the time that he had kind of saved my life at that time. But that was like a punch in the gut to kind of straighten up. You know, we know where we got to go. We know what we got to do to make life better. Let's do it. That lasted, a few months. And I started, everything was good. I'm doing it. I'm doing this thing. It's great. So then you start getting away from God again because you think you're bulletproof. And the drinking started again heavily. I got to where I couldn't go anywhere without having to drink. I couldn't hang out anywhere. Lord knows I probably would have been at some function like this, having to sneak out to the truck just to try to escape my mind so that I could be more available to people because I was fighting myself and God so hard all the time. And I'd catch myself, we'd go cook at friends' houses, and there's a lot of folks here that know that I love to cook. I don't like even at somebody else's house. I'd love to take control, do the cooking, you hang out. It's just what I love to do. I grew to hate that. I couldn't cook without drinking. I had a roommate, and I'd blame keeping wine in the refrigerator on his girlfriend just so that I'd have something to drink while I was cooking. I'd catch myself going, it'd be some little function with some friends and hanging out, and I'd get to digging through a freezer or refrigerator somewhere trying to have something to drink. And I just beat myself up time and time again because there I'd be hiding in the back corner somewhere. Everybody's up here having a big time, and I'm just so overcome with and overwhelmed with my emotions and feelings. I'm hiding, trying to drown myself, to quit thinking the way I was thinking, and doubting everything that ever came into my life. And I started getting tired from then till about the winter of 22. I was just fighting so hard with God. There was absolutely no way I was going to church, because at that time I'd gotten to the point to where I was sweating bullets sitting in that pew. I know there would have been a wet spot from how bad I was sweating, fighting it, man. We all know how powerful God is, and you think you can fight a man like that, a God like that. It just about killed me. And you go eat supper with friends, and then you're waking up the next morning to pictures on your phone. You don't remember any of it. You wake up to pictures on your phone of you passed out in public on a bar somewhere because you couldn't handle your own problems. You think you're a man taking control. A real man's going to take his problems to God and fight them with God. I just couldn't seem to figure that out. I wrestled and wrestled and wrestled with him, and finally my 31st birthday, December 27th of 22, all my friends had gone to bed. We were at duck camp at Mallard Estates. All my friends had gone to bed, and I wanted to drink. So it was about 9 o'clock, I started drinking. Had a friend come hang out with me because everybody else gone to bed. They said they'd drive up there to spend some time with me. I needed to be in the bed going to work the next morning. We went for a ride around the farm in another guide's vehicle there. It's kind of like a lodge community vehicle, but I decided to take it for a little spin. Somehow my friend took over driving, and I woke up to them saying, Prather, where do we go? We were in the middle of a duck hole, water up to the headlights, ice about 4 inches thick. We busted the headlights out, the grill out, and I don't remember anything after that. I woke up the next morning, and the Tahoe was in the driveway. I knew that's what we had been in. Their vehicle wasn't there. I was wondering, how in the world did I get here? But I knew right then, like, I just broke completely down and hit my knees right there. It was over. I couldn't fight this fight anymore. Could not do it. I'd prayed to God. I guess I left that part out of there. I'd been praying to God for several years to take me away. That's where my prayer life had gotten to. I pray to God every day like, man, this is a good day. You can take me away now. I ain't got nothing to live for. I ain't got no money saved up. Been making good money for a while now. Please just take me away. My family would be so much happier. And again, that's the devil trying to create that doubt and win another soul for his army. That morning, in a heap of a mess, I somehow got to work, and on the way there, I had gotten on the phone with a friend of mine, and I knew that he had been to the Home of Grace. Got a cousin back here that he had been in the past as well. Heard some really good things out of there, and I wanted me some of it. Needed some of it. I didn't just want it, I needed it. And we got that ball rolling. I didn't have enough money to pay for it, $3,500. I'd been working for 6 or 8 months straight at this time. You know, most men would have enough money to pay for it. Didn't have enough. Had to get my dad to pay for some of it, another sponsor to pay for the majority of it, and some other great people putting money together to put me there and kind of sponsor my journey to the Home of Grace in Van Cleve, Mississippi. They asked me that morning, when would you be ready to be here? I said, if there's any way possible, I'd be there right now. But it's a 6.5-hour drive, and I'm going to have to get some things together. So that was a Wednesday, I believe, and on Friday morning, my dad and my sister loaded me up, and off to rehab I went. Place I never thought I'd need, and tried to fight for a long time to stay away from. But that morning, like I say, I woke up in just a ball of snot and tears and couldn't take it anymore. I can't say that I completely surrendered to God, because I didn't. But I was like, man, you got to give me a sign, help me out. You know, I know you're what I need, but I don't know what to do. So I went down there, kind of open mind, open heart. And first thing, I sat down, you know, everybody's greeting me, everybody's smiling. And I'm thinking, are we at the right place? because it's rained and stormed on us about 6 hours out of the 6.5 hour drive. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is fitting to go to rehab. 29th of December, I'm supposed to be duck hunting and enjoying life with my friends. But it didn't take long to start seeing why everybody was so happy at this place. Man, seemed like every movement, everything out there was about God. And everybody was so broken, but put together so well. In that place, I came in there so broken. Man, I don't know how I was putting one foot in front of the other because I was that lost. I sat down to read a book called Man Up, basically like what we were speaking on earlier, was to man up and lead the household, man up and be an example for your friends and the other ones around you, and quit feeling sorry for yourself. It's what I'd done a lot of. Whole lot of self-pity. Instead of manning up dealing with my problems, I just drank them away. Everything's twice as bad the next day. But I read James 1:2-4. Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. That was the very first thing I read in that book. When I sat down, I moved into my little room there that was going to be my home for the next 90 days. No phone. Only contact I was going to have with anybody from home would have been through a letter. We know how long that takes. And one phone call a week. But that right there hit me, and I knew that was God. Kind of, here's your sign moment. It's what you've been asking for. Because all these things, the loss I'd felt, and I just couldn't ever seem to get over, asking why. Well, now I see. And right then I saw that, the mindset needed to change. Instead of feeling so sorry for myself and wanting to hide and tear myself down and drown everything away, I like how it really touched me right there too. It said, consider it joy in the trials and testing of your faith. Because, if you're not getting tested, how are you going to get better? How do you know your weak points? How do you get stronger? So that right there kind of got my mindset right away. It's kind of funny too how you learn about the faith of a mustard seed. Could move mountains. Well, give him just a little and he'll reveal himself in so many ways. And that's what I'd done, and he held up his end of the deal. And there we would go to class at 9 o'clock in the morning, get up and walk to breakfast, walk to Bible study, walk to class, walk to church, walk to play softball and lift weights in the evening sometimes. But I learned there to take it all in. It's how my dad raised me, to enjoy God's creation and just be able to breathe and take in the peace of being away from the rest of the world. That's the first time. I'd been hunting countless times since I'd, kind of grown out of hunting with my dad, as we all do. I'd forgotten what life was all about, forgotten the whole purpose, lost my purpose in life. And I found that walking around down there, having to walk everywhere, you got a lot more time to think. Everybody loads up in the vehicle, myself included. You load up, turn your music on, throw it in drive, and you're focused on the road. You're not thinking. You start thinking a little too hard, or at least for me. Them ditches start sneaking up on you, and mailboxes and everything else, so you got to keep your eyes on the road. So I got to, in every way possible, come in contact with God, whether it was just stopping to enjoy the creek running under the road out there, listening to the birds every morning. That seems so simple, but when you were drowning yourself for so long, boy, it sure was nice. While I was there, I met a lot of great people. Mr. Michael Allen Witcher came from Manatee, Mississippi tonight. Pretty good little drive. I met him there. Boy, that's one of those, you go into rehab thinking, what kind of people am I going to meet? Because you grow up thinking about a rehab, like, these are going to be some rough people. These, ain't nothing like that. Turns out we're all the same. Everybody had their own little, their weaknesses, but we were all the exact same. Different walks of life. Some of the folks there had more money than most towns knew what to do with, and some people like me didn't have anything. And we was there for the same reason. We all needed God. And I learned there too, they try to teach you as a kid to hit your knees, to fight through things, and to make it through things. And there I really learned the power of prayer. I'd seen prayer work in so many ways, and it's just kind of like it went over my head. I never really, in my Bible, I'd never really read my Bible. I could have quoted you all kinds of scripture growing up, and at that point I couldn't remember much of anything other than John 3:16. And most folks can do that whether they've been to church or not. But I learned there on my knees who I really was and what God wanted to do with my life. I learned to really get anything out of it, I feel like you've got to lay it all out there. He knows what you've done. He's seen it and knew what you was going to do before you did it. But still manning up, laying it all out there, lay it all down at his feet so that he can help you through it. That was huge for me, because for so long I didn't know how to deal with anything. My mind just get to racing. I know everybody's does, but mine get to racing and I'd start running. And sometimes I'd end up, I may not leave my room other than go to the restroom for a couple days at a time. Lights off. I didn't even want to drink. I just want to disappear. That was, I guess, my big prayer time. I'd pray to God and ask him to take me away. But there I learned to pray and ask God for the things I needed. And I learned so much so fast. I've been praying for patience. I feel like patience, or the lack thereof, had led me in a lot of ways to that point, because you wanted so many things to happen so fast. Like, man, why does this have to hurt so bad? I'm ready for this to be over. So you drank. Well, I was praying for patience. I'd taken a little job cleaning up the cafeteria after the meals, and we needed some help. A couple guys had graduated, and some other guys got fed up with it, I guess, cleaning up after grown men, and decided they had enough. So I was cleaning the cafeteria by myself for a couple days, help from odd and end guys. I really feel like God's got a sense of humor in a lot of ways. I told them that I needed some help, so they sent me a blind man with a bad attitude. And I guess technically he wasn't blind, legally blind, yes. He read his mail like this, like had to get this close to read it, or had to have somebody else read it to him. So when you're sweeping a tile floor, you know, you've got grout lines and there's all kinds of grass and dust. Man, I learned what patience were right there. God's not going to just give it to you. You've got to learn it. And you can't tell this man that he missed a spot. You had to learn how to be patient. If anything, let him get out of the way, and you just go through there and clean up behind him. But I got to where instead of being mad and bitter towards everybody around me like I had been for years, I'd catch myself laughing like, I prayed for this. Thank you. And it was just little things like that started really building up for me. And every day growing with these men down here that didn't know them from Adam until I got there. And turns out you felt so alone in the world, but turns out there's so many people that are just like you. They look a little different, they sound a little different, but there's so many that are the same. Well, it was eye-opening for me and very humbling, because I was, even in my bad days, I could be trusted by people. I took pride in that. And got there, you couldn't have the keys to nothing. Man, they wouldn't let you drive a lawnmower. I'm surprised they even let you use a weed eater. But that's what I found. I got to have a little fun getting to be, I guess, one of the trustees weed eating with the yard crew. But that's another thing too. You know, at home I wouldn't have done that without money. And there I learned to glorify God even through weed eating, because we're going to do it the best we can. Colossians 3:23 says, work at it with, I can't remember exactly. Anyways, in all things, work as if you're working for the Lord, not for man. I learned a lot more. That's it right there. Whatever you do, do it enthusiastically as something done for the Lord and not for men. And that had been a verse majority of my life that, you know, it meant a lot to me, but I never really applied it to life until I had hit rock bottom and was at rehab, weed eating, you know, mad at the world in some ways, but so happy to be there in others, because it's South Mississippi and it's hot. But growing through that, really found out I was a lot more of a man than I thought, just letting God work through me. And I'm not trying to get this twisted into anything I've done, because the only thing I've done is make a decision. He's done it all. But man, the peace that I gained down there is something I can't, you know, you read about it, you hear other people talk about it. It sounds good. Yeah, you know, it'd be cool to feel that. But you don't really know how good that peace is until you feel it for yourself. And I know that comes from this book right here. I like to think of it as a book of instructions. You know, we get lost in life and, man, what do I do? Well, first off, we're going to hit our knees and pray about it. We're going to bring the problem to him. And then I'm going to bet good money that there is something to do with your problem in this book right here. And that will help coach you through that problem. Somebody at some time has been in your shoes, and there's an example of it right here, how to handle it or how not to handle it, you know, and you learn from that as well. But we went to church every night down there for, what was it? Every night but Wednesday night, which was odd to me because Wednesday night was something I looked forward to growing up, to go to church. anyways, went to church more in 90 days than I had been in the last 10 years, and loved every second of it. And it's just, I'm not trying to ramble. I just want to keep going back to the fact that God was always there for me. And all I had to do was go to South Mississippi to find him, I guess, because I didn't want to open my eyes here to do it. But going to church that much, I honestly wish we could do that more here. It was like vacation Bible school for 90 days for grown men. All we talked about was God. You go to hang out with the guys smoking, they'd tell all the war stories, cooking dope and all that. You learn real quick you don't want to be around that. But you could always find some, like Mr. Witcher back there, that wanted to talk about God and growing as a man, growing for his family at home, and finding more purpose in life for himself. Back to that peace I was mentioning. Man, that's the best feeling I'd ever felt. I'd never felt enough peace, or I'd never felt anything like that from drinking or any other kind of substance I'd been dumb enough to try. Man, I was on top of the world. And it was, I graduated on Friday, got the call. One of my lifelong, you think you got it. Got life by the horns, you done got it figured out. And then you get punched in the mouth like the day after you graduate with something that would have broken you down. It's like a lifelong hero. His dad's right here. Found out that as a high school baseball coach and lifelong hero to me, had passed away. Boy, let me tell you something. Like getting the wind ripped right out of your sails. But I learned right there too, back to this James 1:2-4, consider it great joy in the testing of your faith. And first thing I could do was hit my knees. I really feel like that moment was for me to not get too high on myself. Keep God first in my life. Because really, it's hard not to kind of get a little arrogant, a little boastful coming out of there thinking, man, I got life by the horns, we about to do this. And that right there happens, and what would have caused me to go down some whole other path out here, brought me to my knees without even having to think about it. It was relieving knowing that, just because I didn't have to think about it. I hit my knees. I was in my Bible right away. I wasn't going to allow that time, that void to be filled with anything but God. And I made a post on Facebook through that, and I had a friend of mine that I made through the Boilermakers reach out to me, and he's talking about, man, maybe I need to get some help too. I was telling him, you just let me know, I can give you the number to the place I went. It's phenomenal. I'd recommend it to anybody. And I'd go back in a heartbeat. We talked back and forth. And he's having trouble with the mother of his child, and work and different things. And I said, man, just don't let your drinking get out of hand, because I knew it. One time we were both kind of in the same shoes. And he wrote me back where I was at in time, and for the time being, I didn't have very good service out in Decatur County. Driving a tractor all day, didn't have much service at all. It's like you couldn't even get a radio station. So I missed his message till a few days later, and I didn't think much about it because he was one of the toughest guys I knew. And he still had a little humor when we were talking, so I wasn't worried much about him. But I also missed my opportunity there to share my testimony with him, share Christ with him, And I was looking on Facebook, scrolling through there like we all do, and saw a post of him his brother had made, and talking about gonna miss him. He'd killed himself, and I started fighting myself right there, wondering, because I didn't know. In all honesty, I didn't know if he was saved or not. But I kind of kicked myself, because at that time, all this that I've been through and learned, and I had the opportunity to share it with him, and I didn't. What if I could have helped save his life? I guess with that, I just want everybody to take every opportunity. It's kind of like with Mr. John asking me to do this. I know how long I rode the fence and played with it, needing help, knowing that I wasn't right, knowing stuff was wrong and life was getting way out of hand. But now I know, share every opportunity you can, what God's done for you. Honestly, we all wake up in the morning, we got breath in our lungs. That's the reason right there, to be able to share what God's done for you. But I learned a lot about myself right there too. That was another, within a month's time, I'd lost two people that, one being huge to me, and another one, just the fact that he was my age and had a little girl at home and a family that loved him, and even people at work that were going to miss him because he was such a good employee and co-worker to have around. I'll just cut this out right now. Okay. So God is great. I guess all this talking is what I really needed to say. Always something I've learned is to always bring your problems to your friends. Jesus had his disciples, and he was able to, what was it, his inner three that he had? I feel like every man needs that. It's just another example from the Bible that we can use with our life. The friends that are here for me now, that saw me at my worst days, I feel like, that's nothing but a godsend in itself. Man, always, clearly we're doing pretty good. Everybody's at church on a Thursday night, but always take your problems to God, hit your knees, pray about it. Get those friends, talk about it. Make your friends talk to you. There's a fella here, I'm not going to point at him, I'm not going to say his name, but I know that we've talked a lot about it, and he's one of those that'll call me out on it for being a little too quiet, or I'm not smiling exactly the same. We need those friends in life, because you never know what somebody's hiding. Because I guess that was another big problem for me. I was living two lives. There's so many people, including my family, that thought everything was okay because I learned how to smile for no reason. Or I thought I didn't have a reason to smile. And I hid everything. Everybody thought I was just the happiest thing ever. Boy, I just wanted to die. So, use those friends around you. Keep those friends around you. Be there for them. And make sure they're there for you. Stay in the Word, and let's fight this together. Thank you.
You know, I would see Jacob, and you never know. When he said, right here toward the end, he said that people would always think I was happy. If you had asked me about Jacob Prather, that was my thought of Jacob, was he was always happy. I never saw him mad. But that just goes to show you that I don't even know if Jacob remembers this. After he got to talking about it, I can remember going into the grind in Martin one day, and I went to eat lunch. I was up there working, and of course that place stays packed. Wasn't nowhere to sit. I didn't want to wait long. Jacob's at the bar. I sat with him at the bar. I never saw. I guess I wasn't paying attention either. But Jacob was always just a happy guy to me. But it just goes to show you never know what's going on with somebody. You may see something, but they may be dealing with stuff that you never know about. And he talked about, as men, we like to control things, and I can relate to that. His part of controlling, it got to a point where he was broken, and I've had the same thing happen through different circumstances. As he said, him and my son Trey, same age. And as a father, you think you control everything. I mean, you think you control your family, You're the protector of your family. And it's at that point where I got that call, July the 12th, 2016, and I got the news. Actually, I didn't. I got a text message from Trey's phone, and it said call Nurse Mary, and I thought it was Trey, and I thought they had overloaded him with information, and he wanted them to explain it so it wouldn't get mixed up. And that's when I got the news, and I hit my knees in the Jackson Generals baseball stadium parking lot and cried like a baby. And you think you can protect your family, you think you're in control of your life, and it doesn't take a moment like that right there, and it will break you just like Jacob's different circumstances. But that's when you realize I had to go tell my son his best friend was gone. I had to tell my wife that her son was gone. I had to tell my daughter the big brother was gone. That's hard. And you realize what you think you control, there was nothing I could do. I had no control over anything. And it's when you realize how weak you are and how little control that you have of the things you think you control, and that's when you hit your bottom, you realize how strong God is. And I'm thankful for Jacob, and I'm thankful. I hate that he hit rock bottom, but I'm thankful he hit that point to where he found Jesus, because there is a peace in Jesus that is unexplainable. And dying doesn't look so bad when you know what's waiting on you. And so I want to encourage y'all, everybody here has a testimony. You've got a story. I hope your story centers around Jesus. It may go through a winding trail to get to it, but I hope it centers on Jesus. Because if yours don't center on Jesus, if your story ain't centered around Jesus, I hope you find somebody here tonight and talk to them. And if they say they don't know, get to somebody that does. Because I don't want nobody leaving here tonight riding that fence. Because you ain't riding a fence. You either are. It's kind of like being pregnant. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You either are or you're not. And you either know God or you don't. And so I'd encourage you. I also want to encourage you to share your story just like Jacob has. Because you never know who you're going to touch. And a lot of times he'd say, why me? Why did you take him? And I thought that when I lost Trey, And at Trey's funeral, we did an invitation because I needed something. I needed positive stuff to happen. And there's a girl that's married to my nephew was saved at his funeral. And through different things, I've seen different things happen along the way. And all I can tell you is we ain't going to understand all of God's ways. I try to. I mean, there's times I slash why Trey, but I also look at it this way. God had Trey. He didn't have my now niece. And so he had Trey, and through Trey's life, he got her. That's a +1. I know where he's at, and I know where she's going. Share your story. You go home, and if you've got a wife, you've got kids, do they even know your story? Men, we don't like to tell. We don't like to talk about. We put a lot of stuff off on women. Be honest, in churches, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you go to church, you know what I'm talking about. We put a lot of the burden of the work off on our women. And men, too oftentimes, will not share their story. And a lot of times your own family don't even know your own story. When you go home, if you got kids at home, if you got grown kids, share your story with them. You may be the only person, you may be the one person that God has to reach them. So, and I'm going to tell you, you don't want something to happen and then you have the what if questions. So, anyway, Jacob, I love you. I'm so grateful he came to speak, and I just glad everybody come out. Thank y'all for coming. Just remember, hey, June the 20th, we got the Men of Hope coming, and you can pick up something. If you want to come back and join us for other stuff, you don't have to come here. You don't have to be a member. This is just a bunch of guys coming together, and to me, it's pretty neat. Sometimes guys just need to be around guys, you know. So with that being said, I'll dismiss us. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for Jacob. I thank you for what you've done in his life. I'm thankful that he reached that point in his life where he knew that he needed you and he needed to center his life around you. Dear Lord, I just ask you to continue to use him as a vessel. Dear Lord, to draw more people to you. I just pray for all these men here tonight. Pray for their trips home. And dear Lord, I pray that you use them like you used Jacob here tonight. And dear Lord, don't let them bury their treasure. And as the parable says, don't let them bury their treasure. Let them sow the seeds that will produce more fruit for you, dear Lord. Just let us, everything we do, honor and glorify you. We thank you most for Jesus. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.